Chapter 25. The Bike. Holding onto the picket fence with her left hand, Vula sat carefully on Peter's bike, trying to keep her balance. She was finding it very difficult to learn how to ride a bike, but as her parents had promised her a new bicycle if she could learn to ride, she kept trying. So now, here she was, holding the neighbour's front fence. She was able to sort of ride by holding onto the right handlebar with her right hand while pushing off and trying to turn the pedals a bit. Then she would suddenly hold onto the front fences of the next neighbour's house while she slowly rolled a small way along and fell leftwards onto the fences. At the moment, she was holding Mrs. Manning's fence, about 100 metres from her house, but it had taken her about half an hour to get there. Vula wished she could already ride. Why could her younger brother Pete ride and not she? Let's face it, Peter had put in many hours of practice, and now he could ride without even holding on to the handlebars. He was such a show-off. Also, he could ride fast, down Billy Goat Hill. Vula was proud of him, but she really wanted to be able to ride too. Vula continued her efforts all the way to the corner and then had to turn left to continue around the block. However, she now had two problems. The street was downhill, and there were also thorny branches along a low wire fence. She had nothing to hang on to while she tried to steer the bike and push it along at the same time. Vula had another problem because if she turned around to ride back towards home, she would have to hold the handlebar with her left hand and hold on to the fences with her right hand. She was right-handed, and so her weaker left hand would have to control the bike. Oh well, she decided it was easier to go back home than to try going downhill without any fence to help her keep her balance. Also, if she crossed the road, several fences were not high enough to hold on to. By the time Vula got back to her house, her hands and legs had been hurt banging against the fences. She was covered with scratches and bruises, but she felt that she had improved her riding skills a lot. She could stay on the bike and turn the pedals a couple of times without holding on to any fences. A few weeks later, she was riding Peter's bike quite well, but unluckily she had bent the handle of the bike bell against a fence. Peter wasn't happy that his new bike got damaged by his big sister, so it was good when Argiro and Theo bought Vula a bike for her 11th birthday. It was pink and later had a white basket put on the front handlebars. Vula could finally ride very well, even without holding the handles, just like her younger brother, but not fast down Billy Goat Hill. Commonly, in those days, bikes didn't have gears, and to stop you pushed backwards on the pedals. It was very easy to understand and use. Vula and Peter used to keep their bikes in the backyard, leaning against the broken wooden garage door. One morning, Vula and Peter had an argument about something. I don't know what. When Vula walked into the backyard, she saw Peter's bike, with its bent bell, resting in its usual place. It was then she thought of a naughty plan to get even with him. She secretly let the air out of his back bicycle tire. In the morning, Peter ran to his bike as he planned to go for a bike ride to the local milk bar to get some football cards. They came inside bubble gum packets with photos of the football players. Because Peter was often doing naughty things himself, he realized straight away that it was his sister who had given him a flat tire. He looked at Vula and told her he knew she had let the air out of his tire. Now she would be in trouble. Vula found it hard to lie, and her face looked guilty. She told him the truth, and that he made her do it. This made Peter very angry. Soon Vula saw that he was getting angry because the colour of his face changed from pink to dark red to almost purple. She walked backwards away from him. But Peter was furious and punished his sister by kicking and bending the spokes of Vula's new bike. She told her mother, but Argiro didn't want to take sides in their fighting. Vula pretended she didn't care, so she didn't play with her bike for a few days. Then she went out and straightened the wheel spokes as much as she could. She washed her bike and made it shine, but it was no longer perfect. She should not have wronged Peter, and now she had to live with the problems she had caused. It was a good lesson to learn. Don't plan to do bad things to others, because bad things will happen to you too. A few of the neighbourhood kids had bikes, and so did one or two of the Haddis children. Therefore, they used to go riding out of Hamilton and into the local paddocks. Vula helpfully put the family dog Prince in her wire basket so she could give him a rest. However, his paws got sore on the wire and he wriggled, making the handlebars turn, and Vula crashed. Sometimes Vula used to dink Peggy on her bike until she too got her own bike. In this way, the kids explored beautiful shady spots and sometimes went mushrooming. But they were never sure if the mushrooms they found were safe to eat. It was just fun to jump on the toadstools and mushrooms and squash them into the ground. Why is that? Another time, the group of kids, some on bikes and some on foot, found an old wooden bridge with a railway track going over it. While some of the friends had a rest and a bit of a picnic on the grass below the bridge, Peter, Bob Tyden and Stephen Haddis decided to go across the bridge. Isn't that what it was there for? Sure, it takes courage to try new things, but it takes wisdom to accept You can't do everything. Anyway, the boys didn't have much wisdom. They were too young. They were jumping around and happily pushing each other as they jumped across the wooden beams of the railway line. Suddenly they stopped playing and looked very scared. They had heard a train, and it was coming straight towards them. What could they do? They had seen that every now and then there were some parts on the bridge that you could go to if you needed to get out of the way of a coming train. The boys quickly ran to one of these. They were safe as the train went past them. "That was too close. We could have died," the boys told each other. "How do we always get ourselves into trouble?" Sometimes, as Vulla rode along the country roads, she would look far away, and she thought she saw water across the road. Bob told her it was a mirage. As they got closer to the water, it disappeared. Then another watery pond looked like it was there, across the road, far away. Those long summery days seemed to last a long time because the children did a lot in one day. They wished their games would never end, as each one loved being together with the other kids and sharing the beauty around them. With every colourful sunset, they had to go home for dinner. They said goodbye to their friends with a bit of sadness that such a great day of fun had ended, and it would soon be time to go to bed.